is LA Mayor Karen Bass. She served on the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee before she became mayor of Los Angeles, which has more Iranian Americans living in it than any other city in the country.
That's right.
Mayor Bass, welcome back to the story. It's always great to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
What's your reaction to the ceasefire?
Well, first of all, I was relieved. I certainly hope it stays in place. It was good to know it was both sides. And so let's hope that this will actually lead to peace, not just in Iran, but in the entire region.
You know, there have been so many different perspectives here in Southern California on
That's
this.
right.
People very passionate about this. Right after
Right.
the war started, we saw rallies of thousands of people in the streets that were cheering this on.
That's right.
Many of them had been victims of the regime, and they were hopeful for regime change. What are you hearing from them? What are you hearing from people that live here?
Sure. Well, I think the people that are the most organized, the people that have been turning out to the tens of thousands, have been people that were actually calling for this level of intervention before, are supportive of it, and then they have their view as to what should come next.
Do you think President Trump deserves some credit for taking on a regime that so many people here in Southern California think was murderous and terrible and killed their families?
Well, the question is, what's the outcome? I think that the U.S. has a track record in tearing things apart, but not so good when it comes to putting them back together afterwards. So to the extent that the regime has actually changed, granted, the leadership has changed, new leadership has come in, but I don't know that it has fundamentally changed.
And we don't really know who's in charge right now because the Ayatollah's son is kind of nowhere to be found and hasn't spoken publicly, so we don't really know who's in charge.
I think it's a little tough to identify yourself.
Because the risk is that a bomb's going to drop on your head, which is what just happened to his father, his wife, and his son as well. So that is moving forward. So what do you want to see happen next?
Peace, for sure, for sure. But, you know, again, we are home to the largest Iranian population in the United States. And as mayor, I have to pay attention to that in terms of all sides, all viewpoints in the Iranian community. Right. And I think that this is a common thing. We are a city that represents the world. I think every country's diaspora lives here.
Right.
So it is not unusual. I've experienced it many times that when there is a conflict in another country, the diaspora here is highly opinionated. And it's not too frequent when people are all united.
Sure.
Typically, multiple sides are represented.
And when we've gone out to do reporting on that, we see a lot of views in the Iranian-American perspective here in what's often called Tarantulas, because there's so many people living here.
That's right.
Let's talk about another big story that the world has been following in Los Angeles, which is recovery from the fires.
Right.
And a really interesting headline recently in the Wall Street Journal talking about the fact that you and President Trump are actually working together when it comes to taking on the insurance companies here.
Well,
you talked to him, right, on the phone. Talk to us about that.
I did. Well, let me just tell you that when he came out with his executive directive or executive order that said that he wanted to take over the permitting process in the city of Los Angeles, of course, I was very concerned about that, and that the only permits that had been issued are federal permits, which actually don't exist. But what I was delighted is who he appointed to come here, which was the EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin. We served in Congress together. That's one thing that has been very helpful to me in this role. The fact that I served in Washington and served in Sacramento, I still have those relationships. And those relationships pay off. And so when Administrator Zeldin came here, well, we actually talked ahead of time, and we've been talking since. He's certainly identified some weaknesses with the permitting process, and we've been addressing those. But the main obstacle that people have experienced in the rebuilding process at this point has been banks that need to extend the forbearance so that people don't start paying mortgages on vacant lots, and the insurance industry that has not been paying people the resources that they rightfully deserve. So I requested in my response to the president's executive order, I said, Mr. President, only you has the power to bring together these industries in the Oval Office and tell them to do right by the people of the Palisades. And so I was very excited to see the tweet that he gave
Right.
a week ago.
He said that they were that the insurance companies have been absolutely horrible and not here to help. What was the conversation with you and President Trump like? What did you guys talk about? What did he say to you?
Well, it was an interesting conversation. We just focused on the Palisades and we focused on the positive side. You know, because you and I have been on this journey together through the Palisades. And you know, in the beginning, in the first few months, I said repeatedly that the resources that the administration sent it was historic number of Army Corps of Engineers that came out.
To lead the cleanup.
Historic deployment,
Yeah.
which was why we were able to finish that stage so quickly and why we were able to begin the rebuilding. So you should know that at this point, over 400 homes are actively under construction. We've issued over 2,000 permits.
Yeah.
And we have people that are going to begin to move in the summer. I was on a Zoom call today with a family that, fingers are crossed, they should be moving in June.
So in terms of the insurance, though,
Right.
the President Trump puts out that statement. You're calling him for that. What are we seeing in terms of actual results? Are there real changes that are happening after that?
Right. I'm glad you asked that. That was the purpose of my Zoom this morning. You know what I did actually before engaging the president? I took a delegation of Palisadians to Sacramento, again, building on my relationships there. And there's very specific pieces of legislation that we're advocating for. So I set up strategic meetings with the Sacramento leadership, et cetera. And so I did a Zoom call today with those leaders to find out, has anything changed?
Yeah.
And they're beginning to report change. Now, it's sad what they're reporting because they're reporting things like they're actually returning my calls. They actually seem to be taking an interest. That's sad, frankly,
Right.
because these families have paid into these companies for years. And then the one time they need them,
Right.
and then, they don't have them.
So the public pressure is being ramped up, and now they're having to deal with the PR.
Right.
aspect
I
of
do
this.
have a few more companies to send the president's way. And we need to move over into the banking industry, too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you guys are working together on something. Another big question, LA is about to host the World Cup,
Right.
the Super Bowl, the Olympics, all in like 2.5 years. It's going to be something that the whole world is watching. And one of the concerns that we hear around the country is about homelessness. And there was a report in the LA Times just this week that talked about your signature program called Inside Safe, which is to get people inside safe. And it said $300 million program and 40% have returned to the streets. These are people that were part of the program and then they're no longer part of the program. They're back on the streets. Some people say that that's a failure. What do you say to that?
Well, I say several things. First of all, 60% of the people have remained housed.
Yeah.
But you know me, and we've been on this journey.
That's not a great percentage.
Well,
Yeah.
it is a great percentage. We've been on this journey together.
Yeah.
And the reason why I ran was because we needed change in this city.
Yeah.
What was happening in the city was just completely unacceptable. The city had adhered to a rigid policy that said, stay on the streets, basically, until we build you something. I came in and said, it is unacceptable to have Angelenos on the street. You know that I came into a system that had been broken for over 3 decades, but you know that I felt the sense of urgency to get people off the street. So what I did was move to get people off the street, which we have succeeded in. We've resolved over 120 encampments. So for the first time, we've had 2 years in a row, a 17% reduction in street homelessness, where nationally it's been an 18% increase. But you also know that I've been trying to diagnose and transform the system at the same time.
Yeah.
But one thing that the city and the county never did was really properly evaluate the system to see what is working and what isn't working. So for example, we don't know that 40% left to go on the streets. We don't know where they are. The bottom line is they left interim housing.
Yeah.
And I can give you
Pretty
lots of
concerning, isn't it?
Of course it's
Yeah.
concerning, but you've also heard me over the last 3 years say that one of the fundamental weaknesses in the system was it was inadequate services. So you're not addressing the substance abuse, the mental health, and the other reasons that led to homelessness. So I did bring on a team to evaluate what is working because of course I want to know, first of all, where those 40% went,
Sure.
why they left, but I also want to know why the 60% stayed. And so if we're going to transform the system like I want to see done, then we need to have this information, but the system was not designed to evaluate itself.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I could keep going all day,
No,
but
I have to come back
we'll have to come
again.
back again and continue this conversation. Mayor Karen Bass, always great to hear you share your perspective.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you. Same here.